Hi, folks. Democrats are at it again, proving that self-awareness is now an extinct species on their party. Every time they say equity, your wallet should start sweating. Case in point, New York communist Zohran Mamdani, who's now asking his supporters to donate so he can build his transition team. That's right. Pay Zohran so he can give you free stuff later, hopefully. It's like crowdfunding communism. The more you give, the less you obviously get. And naturally, his new team is supposedly made up of all women because apparently the future is DEI in a girl boss suit. And speaking of girls, Big Mike is out here telling the world how hard it is being a woman. It must be hard being oppressed by a glam squad.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really have that choice as first lady.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
Every day, every time I was up, as we called it, I was up for the public.
Yes.
And the days were long. So as you mentioned, to save time.
Yes.
I know having a glam team, a trifecta, it feels like a luxury, but it was a time necessity.
Yes.
There's absolutely no way that I would be able to do my hair and makeup and have clothes ready that fit, because rare is the woman that can live off the rack.
Yes.
Folks, if you're having a hard time paying your bills, if you're struggling to fill up your gas tank just so you can drive to work, buy bread for your kids, and feed your dogs, well, take heart. Because somewhere out there, Michelle Obama is suffering too. She's burdened with the unimaginable hardship of having a hair and makeup team. Seriously, folks, you think your rent hike hurts? Well, try waking up every morning and brace yourself. Having to be up. That's right. She didn't get to stay in bed. She had to rise from taxpayer-funded sheets, put on taxpayer-funded clothes, and let her taxpayer-funded glam squad make her presentable for you. So be grateful, America. Your labor, your taxes, your energy, it all went to making sure the First Lady looked flawless while reminding you how privileged you are. But this moment actually says something deeper about where we are as a culture. Folks, we've elevated comfort into oppression for some reason, turned luxury into necessity, and redefined privilege as pain. It's the gospel of grievance playing out in real time, and this fuels modern liberalism. No matter how much power or wealth these people have, they still are victims somehow, and that's the real tragedy. Culture perpetuated by these brainlet losers, so insulated by vanity that it confuses inconvenience with justice.
So I wanted to take advantage of the fact that as the First Lady, yes, you can be smart and educated and beautiful and sexy and interesting and all those things. And yes, you can be a black woman, a tall 5'11" black woman. Did you see the shoulder? You missed that. Did you see that? Sure.
Bro, what are we even watching? This is objectively ridiculous. You're telling me Michelle Obama's grand revelation to the world is that you can be smart, beautiful, sexy, and a black woman all at once? Congratulations, Big Mike, I guess. That's not a political statement. That's just a personality quiz, dude. Sit down, take several seats, in fact, and maybe reflect on how I showed the world that could be me. Isn't empowerment, okay? It's just narcissism dressed up as progress. This is the disease of our cultural moment, folks. Self-obsession masquerading as some sort of social justice. Everything is about representation. But representation of what exactly? Vanity? Ego? Democrats have spent years teaching people to confuse personal identity with moral achievement. It's not enough to be accomplished. You have to perform your identity for applause now. That's why we keep getting these hollow declarations of visibility instead of actual leadership. And why modern Democrat keeps producing influencers instead of actual thinkers. What Michelle's moment here is showing is the end result of identity politics. A culture so trapped and captured in self-congratulations, it mistakes existence for some sort of weird shoulder-rubbing excellence. And since we're on the topic of identity politics, Democrats have made it so Americans can't even be Americans and express things that are concerning to Americans in American cities. Case in point, in Dearborn, Michigan, a stakeholder expressed some concern over a street being renamed after a journalist who had expressed a lot of enthusiasm and support for organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah. And this is how the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, the Muslim mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, responded.
I mean, Hezbollah, bombed the embassy in Beirut, and including many Americans. So I just feel it's quite inappropriate.
You are an Islamophobe. And although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here.
Jesus.
And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city.
Wow.
Because you are not somebody who believes in coexistence.
It is insanely ironic that this Islamist mayor is accusing a resident of not believing in coexistence while literally celebrating the idea of driving that resident out of town. Whatever happened to love your neighbor? Oh, right. That's a Christian concept. Muslims don't believe in that. This is the culture Democrats have imported and protected, folks. A culture where dissent is punished, where questioning extremism is rebranded as hate speech, and where civic institutions are being overtaken by identity-based loyalty rather than shared American values. The resident wasn't attacking Muslims, by the way. He was objecting to naming a public street after a man who glorified Hezbollah and Hamas, two groups that have murdered Americans. Yet in today's America, truth is no defense if it offends the Islamist, Marxist, protected groups. And that's the deeper story here, folks. Dearborn isn't an anomaly. It's a warning. We're watching what happens when multiculturalism replaces assimilation, when fear of being called Islamophobic overrides moral clarity, and when the people who built this country are told they don't belong here anymore. This isn't coexistence. It's cultural conquest, carried out under the banner of some perverted, inverted version of tolerance. Oh, but this gets even wilder, folks, because over in Minnesota, they quite literally elected somebody who's not even an American citizen and is outright boasting about it.
His mother had died. My father, as the one processing the paperwork, put my grandmother down as his mother. And so I am illegal in this country.
Wow.
My parents are illegal here in this country.
Wow. Hey, Tom Homan, I'd like to report an illegal, please. Yes, the brand new mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota, who just months ago proudly told the world she's an illegal alien, and so is her family. Let's start with the obvious, folks. If you've lived here your entire life, built a career, served in the state legislature, and run for office to manage a major American city, hey, maybe it's time to actually become a citizen. How about that? File the paperwork, follow the law, basic stuff. But no, apparently in today's America, breaking the law has become a resume booster. This is the natural result of decades of moral relativism and this perverted version of identity politics, where victimhood has been elevated into virtue and lawlessness is just oppression. Democrats have built an entire moral economy around celebrating defiance as American sovereignty, reframing illegal immigration not as a breach of law, but as an act of courage. And when that worldview takes root in leadership, you no longer have a government upholding the law. You have one redefining it in real time before our eyes. That's how republics decay, folks. Not through invasion, but through inversion. When those who should be enforcing the laws and should be writing the laws start glorifying the violation of their duties, then, it's all up for grabs, folks. New York also recently elected an immigrant, that being Zohran Mamdani, to be the mayor of the largest city in America. And across the pond, fellow Islamist communist Sadiq Khan is out here congratulating Zohran for his win.
From his victory. Well, there are many parallels that New York and London have, and there are many parallels that Zohran and I have. And congratulate the city of New York. They've chosen in a bitterly contested election hope over fear, unity over division, and I'm already experiencing the ripples of hope and happiness coming from his victory.
Wow! Congratulations, Mr. Zohran Mamdani. You secured an endorsement from the illustrious Sadiq Khan, the Islamic Communist mayor of London. Now, let's unpack what that actually means. Khan has been mayor since 2016, and since then, London's overall crime rate rose by 31.5%, according to the Office of National Statistics. On rape and sexual offenses for England and Wales, overall, police-recorded sexual offenses increased by 31% in the year ending on March 2022 to 193,566 offenses compared with the last year. This has largely tracked with a Muslim population growth in England and Wales, which grew from 2.7 million to 3.8 million, an increase of approximately 43% over a 10-year period, rising from 4.8% to 6.5% of the total English population. In London specifically, estimates indicate growth from roughly 1 million in 2011 to 1.3 million in 2021, an increase of about 32% over the same decade. Additionally, according to the Office of National Statistics 2021 census data, Muslims had an economic inactivity rate of 41.9%, with the majority of them living on welfare and other similar programs at a much higher rate than the overall population. So this endorsement by Khan isn't just a congratulatory message, it's a flashing neon sign of what's to come for New Yorkers. And what this reveals about the modern left today is that their discourse is shifting. They celebrate ideological likeness rather than practical solutions, prestige over performance. If your agenda includes higher taxes and greater government control, then fine. But your endorsement from Khan suggests you're running not just for office, but for a rebrand of progressive global identity. That would weaken the Democrat influence in the long run, because ordinary voters don't just vote for hope or solidarity. They vote for results.
You're talking about a rent freeze, you're talking about free buses, you're talking about free childcare. Can you
Free
do that
everything,
without
I guess.
raising taxes?
I think you can do that, and I think you have to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers who make more than $1 million a year, and you do that by raising taxes by them 2%. And then you also increase the corporate tax of New York State to match that of New Jersey. So that takes us from about 7.25 to about 11.5%, which is what we see in New Jersey. These things together raise about $9 billion, which more than pays for our economic agenda and also starts to Trump-proof our state.
But are you worried that could drive a lot of job creators out of New York?
So what I've heard from a number of business leaders is that the affordability crisis is also affecting their ability to attract and retain talent. The city's inability to provide childcare means that businesses often have to provide stipends for that childcare. Right now, the absence of universal childcare means that a family will pay around $22,500 a year, which is more money than many of them would spend if they sent that same kid to college 18 years later. And it is time for city government to actually step up to the responsibility it has.
Not just the city government, that kind of a tax increase is going to require the state as well, including the governor, Kathy Hochul. Is she on board?
You know, I'm proud to have Governor Kathy Hochul's endorsement and the endorsement of our agenda, specifically universal childcare. And I've said time and again, I think these are the two most direct and straightforward ways to raise this revenue. If there are other ways to raise this funds, the most important thing is that we actually fund this agenda.
It's actually insane that this is what New Yorkers voted for. A man openly promising to raise taxes while admitting he can't even legally do it. Mamdani is out here selling socialism on credit, pitching free buses and free childcare without a single workable funding mechanism. The truth is simple. There's no such thing as free anything. Somebody has to pay for it. And that someone is usually you. When he says tax the billionaires, what he's really saying is tax the people who employ you, because the rich don't absorb those costs. They pass them down through layoffs, higher prices, and slower growth. So while you think you're getting free transportation, you might actually be getting a free ride home from the job you just lost because of his policies. This is the same fantasy politics driving the left from London to New York. Promise utopia, ignore economics, and feed the welfare-dependent voter base that keeps the machine running. And the cruel irony is that it always ends the same way. When the productive class leaves, the poor are left with nothing but slogans, higher taxes, and a city in decline. And you, the middle class, the people struggling, going from paycheck to paycheck, you will have to foot the bill. Because those billionaires will do those cuts. They will preserve their money because it's human nature to do so. They are going to pay the best accountants in the world to move their money offshore, or they're going to move their businesses out of state. And you will end up having to foot the bill. And if you turn around and want more free stuff from the government, then guess what? You are going to be making yourself more increasingly dependent on the government. And trust me when I tell you that that is the end game here, folks. They want you broke, dependent, and owning nothing.
A few months ago, where I told supporters across this city to stop donating. And today, I am asking them to start once again. And I am asking them to do so because of the fact that a transition that can meet the moment of preparing for January 1st is one that will require staff, it will require research, it will require infrastructure. And those are things that we will have to provide. And I'm excited for the fact that it will be funded by by the very people who brought us to this point, the working people who have been left behind by the politics of the city.
So let me see if I get this straight. Zohran Mamdani promised free everything. Free buses, free childcare, free groceries, free life. But now, not even 24 hours after winning, he's asking his supporters to send him money. Wait a second, weren't they supposed to be the ones getting all this free stuff? Turns out the only thing free about socialism is a sales pitch. Now, his voters have to pay for their mayor to build his own transition team. You gotta fund the guy you just elected to fight for you for free stuff. Folks, you got bamboozled. If you voted Mamdani, you didn't just get scammed. You got hustled like Old Yeller, getting taken out back, shot through the eyes. This Ugandan guy makes a Nigerian prince look like a model of honesty. And of course, to top it off, he announces an all-woman transition team because nothing says competence in 2025 like hiring for chromosomes over actual qualifications. Folks, this isn't a new era, okay? It's the same old, tired Democrat Marxist playbook. Promise the salvation of the poor, then pass the collection plate. So they can use the money that's supposed to go to their bread to pay these wealthy elites to do the job that they hire them to do. You can't make this up. And that right there is a scam of communism, folks, because let's be real, socialism doesn't exist. We've got to stop pretending it does. Marx himself said socialism is merely a pathway to communism, a transitional phase where the state gains total control before it owns everything, including you. So what we're watching in New York right now is a scam unfolding in real time. They promise you everything free buses, childcare, rent, but the moment they win, suddenly you're the one footing the bill. You're not just the voter, you're the donor too, apparently. Are you kidding me, dude? I thought this was all supposed to be paid for by taxing the rich. Why are the same working class people you claim to represent now being asked to fund your job? These are the people struggling with rent, groceries, gas, and inflation. And you want them to pay you so you can do your job they already paid you to do, apparently? What happened to free? What happened to equity? Maybe the real equality they're after is making everyone equally broke, equally dependent, and equally silent. So ask yourselves, folks, how many more times are we going to let these fools, these scam artists, sell us utopia while handing us the bill? You tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.